Welcome to Chronicles of an Artsy Autism Mom. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit that bell so you're notified of all new uploads. Today's vlog is the case of Matthew Rushin, a 22-year-old African-American man who, until recently, was serving a 10-year sentence for second-degree attempted murder. Matthew Rushin was a 21-year-old engineering student at Old Dominion University when, on January 4th, 2019, his life was changed forever. On January 4th, 2019, Matthew left his home to go to a nearby shopping center to get pastries from Panera Bread. Pulling into the shopping center, a car clipped his front bumper, and the driver wouldn't move from the intersection and kept sitting there on the phone. Matthew tried to prompt him to move, but the man wouldn't. Matthew became overwhelmed and suddenly panicked, and in a move that was completely out of his character, drove out of the parking lot. He drove away doing his breathing exercises and trying to remain calm. But after a few minutes, he realized that he needed to go back to the scene. In pouring down rain, Matthew made a U-turn, and at that point, it appears that he partially lost consciousness. The next thing that he remembered was seeing the LED lights of a Ford Explorer in front of him. Matthew accidentally slammed on the accelerator thinking it was the brake. Unfortunately, the 72-year-old driver of the other vehicle was severely injured. After the accident, Matthew climbed out at the back of his vehicle as the airbags had deployed, and that was his only way out. Once he got out of the vehicle, he was immediately confronted by a man who was yelling explicitives at him, asking him why and if he was trying to kill himself. Matthew immediately shrunk against his vehicle and started repeating to himself, "trying to kill myself," which is an echolea response of someone with autism. Eventually, a passerby got the man away from him. And when the police arrived, they noted that Matthew's speech was slurred and he was not fully coherent. Still, they didn't acknowledge his mental incapacity. And he told them he had autism. Yet none of that is on the camcorders or the recordings from the police. Nowhere in the over 12 hours of police footage is there any place where Matthew said that he was trying to commit suicide or trying to kill someone else. As a matter of fact, he is heard repeatedly over and over that he was not trying to kill himself multiple times. Finally, around 9:30 p.m. that evening, Laverne Rushing and her husband received a call from police officers. Instead of telling them that their son had been involved in a vehicular accident, they asked them if their car had been stolen. Once on scene, Mrs. Rushin's husband was once again asked if the vehicle was his or if it was stolen. And that night, after hours and hours of interrogation, Matthew was charged with second-degree attempted murder. There was a lack of evidence for this, and due to that lack of evidence, the charge was later reduced to 2 counts of aggravated malicious wounding and a hit-and-run charge. 3 officers accused Matthew of saying he wanted to commit suicide, but none of these officers were wearing a body cam. And at no time was Matthew's rights as a person on the autistic spectrum taken into consideration, nor was he given any type of advocacy due to his autism. The tragic thing is that not one of the 17 officers on scene or who interrogated Matthew Rushin was trained to deal with someone with autism. This is one of the tragedies of high-functioning autism. Many times, it is unrecognized by the untrained eye. A lot of things were missed in Matthew Rushin's case, but the worst of these things is that they never took him to a hospital for evaluation, even though he had lost consciousness during the accident and was bleeding from his head, and his speech was slurred and he wasn't making any sense. The question is, why didn't they ever take him to the hospital? The next injustice for Matthew came when it came to getting bond. You would think that a competent attorney would do at any cost to get this autistic man out on bond. But they denied his bond, and he had no basis to do this because at this time, no qualified medical or mental health professional had seen him to make an assessment. The worst betrayal for Matthew came in the form of his attorney somehow convincing him to sign a plea agreement. And so Matthew was charged with attempted murder that then later was increased to 2 counts of aggravated malicious wounding in a car accident. If Matthew had been taken to the hospital at the time of the accident, it would have been found that he had suffered a seizure related to his autism. But this never happened, and he was not exonerated. And so, in August of 2019, he began serving a 10-year sentence in the Virginia State Penitentiary. While Matthew was serving his sentence, his parents, along with others in the autism community, were trying everything that they could to get Matthew out of prison. Their efforts, however, including his parents, seemed to be to no avail until the summer of 2020 and the event of the death of George Floyd. With this event, a renewed interest in the case of Matthew Rushin came about, including a Change.org petition to have Matthew freed. During this time, additional facts in regards to Matthew's medical condition were revealed, and more pressure was put on the governor of Virginia to, in fact, release Matthew. Finally, on November the 9th, 2020, after almost 2 years of social media campaigning, Matthew Rushin was granted a conditional pardon by Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. Although we are happy that Matthew Rushin has finally been released from prison, the fight is not over for Matthew Rushin. In his conditional pardon to Matthew Rushin, Virginia Governor Northam is not altering Matthew's conviction in any way. Matthew still remains convicted of the felonies which he pled guilty to. Matthew is required to participate in mental health and counseling services, in addition to substance abuse evaluation, according to the governor's office. He is also prohibited from driving for the rest of his life, and he's never permitted to own a firearm or make contact with the victims of the car crash. If Matthew violates any of these terms during the next decade, he will have to go back to prison and serve the remainder of his prison term. This could have all been avoided if Matthew had been given medical and mental health evaluation at the time of the accident and had been exonerated because of the seizure. Instead, he is part of a tragic accident that had him convicted of felony attempted murder. More work needs to be done with the judicial system and law enforcement in knowing how to deal with people on the autism spectrum so that their rights are not violated in the conducting of quote unquote justice. One of the victims in this case, Dana Kuzak, told the news after hearing about Rushin's release that she wished him well and hoped that he stayed safe, but that he should never be allowed to drive again. And she felt that the public needed to be kept safe also. Matthew Rushin, however, represents just one of many cases in which a person with a disability is wrongly convicted. In this case, there really are no winners, and there is no real justice. We can only hope that we continue to look at the criminal justice system and change it. So for the many Matthews out there, people with autism or people with other physical and mental disabilities don't end up in prison. Thank you for watching, and please leave me comments down in the comment section and let me know what you think about this case with Matthew Rushin, who ended up going to prison but later was pardoned, but still is considered a criminal by the criminal justice system. We need a better system for our people with mental disabilities, particularly with their interaction with police officers. Thanks for watching, you guys. Peace and blessings from the West Side. I'll see you guys the next time. Bye for now.